Hey team, today we're going to start learning about the California missions. So, if you have ever been in the mission in San Francisco, you've probably walked past this building. It's called Mission Dolores, and it's where that whole neighborhood gets its name from. And you might have even wondered what was this building for? This is actually it's been rebuilt obviously, but this is the oldest building in San Francisco. So, we have learned before that the Europeans came to California in 1542, and before that, there were about 300,000 indigenous people living here for thousands and thousands of years. So, after the Europeans first arrived, they started thinking that they might want to stay here. They thought that there was some money to be made. They thought that they could get some new people to join their religion. So they started building things called missions in 1769. So, as you remember from last time, people who come to a new place to live there are called settlers. And the Spanish settlers took over almost all the land in California. The word for this is colonization. So, a lot of times you'll hear about the California missions as like a cute tourist thing. You can drive from Mission San Diego all the way up to coast to Mission San Francisco. And when you visit the missions, a lot of times, not necessarily Mission Dolores, because the curator of it is a really cool person who teaches history in a very honest and interesting way. But when you visit a lot of missions, they kind of tell you this story about how the Indians came here and the friars at the missions taught them how to live peacefully and be happy and how to grow food like they hadn't been doing that for thousands of years. Unfortunately, the reality is not as pretty, and it's quite sad. And a lot of times people don't want to teach kids this reality because it's pretty messed up. And it's not necessarily an easy thing to know that the place where you live got started in a bad way. But I think that the truth is always better than a lie. So, what really was happening was a combination of things. A lot of times, when Spanish people decided they wanted land for themselves, they would just kill the indigenous people who were nearby, or they might turn them into slaves and make them work for them. A lot of times, indigenous people would also come to these missions because they were just curious about what it was. And of course, they didn't speak Spanish. So they didn't understand that as soon as they walked in that door, they wouldn't ever be allowed to leave. Or sometimes the friars would take one member of a family and they wouldn't let them leave. So if the rest of their family ever wanted to see them again, they'd have to come there too. And once they were at the missions, they were first forced to build new buildings and work in the fields and basically work for these people. They also made them give up their names, their religions, their languages, and use the same language, the same religion as the people who are running the missions. So this is so much information, and you don't need to memorize it all today. Today, what we're going to do is read a short part of a book about this topic, and we're going to take a main idea and detail notes about it, just like we've been practicing this week in Spanish. Just like in Spanish, you start by just doing a quick read to figure out the main idea. And you don't worry about understanding every word. You don't worry about if some things are confusing. You're just like, what is this about? And then once you've figured that out, you can go back and start understanding the details and seeing what details are important to your main idea. I'm going to put this assignment on Seesaw so that you can easily underline important things in this short article. All right, so let's get started. And I'm going to add a section. I haven't done this yet. I'm going to add a section at the bottom for questions because I hope you all have lots of questions about this topic. It's pretty fascinating, and there's so much interesting history here to understand. Let's get started.